Hello and welcome to this little introduction. My name is Luca Joost. I am both a violin maker and an acoustics researcher. In my research I get to use professional and often very expensive equipment to look at the vibration properties of violins, violas, cellos and double basses. I found that this can be very helpful, and it helps me as a maker to better understand the outcomes of my working process. Throughout the last 7 years I have been able to work with these methods on a daily basis, and for me it has been immensely helpful. I use it to check back on previous states, or when I am not too sure that what I think I am hearing is actually there. Of course, I have been excited about this opportunity and tried to share it with as many of you as I could. As for me, these measurements have become such a useful tool in the day-to-day of my violin making practice, I would like you to be able to try it for yourself. Of course, I am not the first, nor will I hopefully be the last, to think like this. In the mid-2000s, Joseph Curtin and Martin Schleske published some papers instructing makers on how to implement acoustic measurements in the workshop, and Joseph sells a great measurement rig today that anyone can buy and start taking measurements right away. More recently, Colin Gough has presented a simplified setup for the workshop, making use of what he calls internal cavity measurements. We will get to what these details mean in another video, but for now let's summarize what I would like to contribute to this ongoing development. As I said, I would like everyone who is interested to be able to try incorporating acoustic measurements into their workflow. Now, this does not necessarily mean that what I come up with today needs to be the last solution you will ever need, but it means that getting started needs to be easy and relatively cheap. Anyone who wants to try doing acoustic measurements has for some years now been able to order professional equipment off the internet and be up and running relatively fast. However, the overall investment, as you can see here, would be about $4,000. Now, I don't want to say that this is not worth it to spend that kind of money on a nice setup, but if you don't know if you will consistently use it, it can definitely be hard to justify the expense. This is further supported by the number of makers I have talked to who are interested in taking measurements, but just haven't done so yet. To my mind, there needs to be an entry-level solution for people to familiarize themselves with measurements and to answer the question, is it worth it for me? On that note, I should mention that I definitely don't want to say every maker needs to do acoustic measurements. For me, it has proven to be a useful tool, but that doesn't necessarily mean it will do so for you too. Similarly, a CNC machine can be a great tool for the right application, but I still wouldn't blindly recommend it to every maker that I meet. So, the goal that I'm presenting with this video. I have designed a simple measurement setup for the workshop, utilizing the concepts that Colin Gough came up with. In the series of videos that this is the first of, I will show you how to make such a setup and how to use it for various measurements that I have found useful around the shop. In this context, I should come back to the two requirements I mentioned earlier. How cheap is this setup exactly, and how easy is it to use? The total material cost is slightly less than $50. And how easy is it to make and use? Well, I guess everyone will have to find out for themselves, but I will definitely do my best to make it as easy as possible for you. There's a GitHub page where you can download files to 3D print the necessary parts, either yourself or through one of the many services. And the tutorials on this YouTube channel will allow you to estimate how difficult making a setup really is and how much time it takes. For me, I would say it can be done in an afternoon. The larger part, of course, is learning how to use the thing, to take measurements, and in turn how to make use of the results. This is partially covered in some additional videos up on this channel right now, but will be a point of discussion in the future as well. I should mention at this point that none of this would be possible without the Obi app, which is a free software package developed by Chris Rogers that I will use in all my tutorials and of course recommend you to use as well. For now, this project is focused on the violin and the viola. However, everything I have said here applies just as well to the cello, the double bass and the guitar. For all of these, some modification of the setup's geometry is necessary, but the plan is definitely to have alternative versions that enable measurements of these instruments in the future. For example, here you can see a trial measurement I performed on a guitar and a modified 3D design that caters to its specific requirements. So, if you are interested in trialing acoustic measurements in your own workshop, consider subscribing to this channel to not miss out on any future uploads. Of course, please let me know what you think in the comments. And if you end up making a setup of your own, please show me and tell me how it goes for you. This is obviously an ongoing project, and if you have any wishes for future developments, I will be happy to take them into consideration. Lastly, this project is really about doing it yourself from start to finish. In this way, you will be most familiar with the ins and outs of doing acoustic measurements. However, I know that there are some steps in the process that might not be easily solved for all of you. To remedy this, I can offer to make some setups for and with you, for example at the Rothenfels, Oberlin and Wilferfer acoustic workshops. In small groups we have already tried this, and it was always great fun and a very useful learning opportunity for all involved, especially me. Here you can see an earlier version that we made at my friend Christian Papst's workshop in 2024. So, let me know what you think, and I hope to see you soon. Until then, Luca.